Hey you guys again. Um, this is gonna be a part two to my video that I made a few days ago because I finally found planning my planning file for the whole project, and I just wanted to go over it because it just goes to show, like it goes to show how it doesn't matter how in depth things are. Like if you don't stick to them, it doesn't really do anything. Like in this case, I planned all these crazy things out and then completely forgot about the plans altogether. And I really only realized that towards the end. Like, I was just sitting there thinking, like, man, I feel like something's missing. Like, I'm not really comfortable uploading this yet. Like, I don't want to post it on the art station yet because I feel like something's missing. And then I was like, holy shit. Like, I had found these the early plans, and I was just like, no, because like there's so many cool ideas that I could have tied into the environment to make it a lot more I don't know, like, I don't know the word, man. Like it would have just came together a lot smoother, if that makes any sense. But there were later in the video, you'll see, like, I did have to start simplifying things because I did plan to like, I wouldn't say extreme, but like I did kind of over plan to the point where to get all of these things included would have taken a lot more time than I actually ended up spending on the project. And the other thing is that I started most of the planning at the time I started most of the planning. I hadn't gotten my first job yet, so essentially, when that job came along, I ended up my focus completely shifted towards that. And when I wasn't working on that, it wasn't too often that I would work on this after work. Maybe a couple days out of the week I would do that. But yeah, so that just led to me just ultimately like forgetting about all of these things. So it's gonna be kind of fun seeing where some of the ideas came from, what the original intention for certain things were. Like, these are things that even I forgot, and I was just like, I'll just go ahead and make a quick video on this real quick. For me, obviously, it's 10 in the morning. I just woke up like an hour ago. This is one of the days that I'm not like at the grocery store, so I just try to spend my time productively. Like I said, the main thing right now is me pushing this thing out to ArtStation and put it on Instagram and whatnot, and then the plan from there is just to start applying to a lot more studios, which is gonna be painful but necessary. So let's get this over with. So in the beginning, I was basically asking myself a few questions: the generic what, when, where, why, how, and whose. So we'll start with the what. So I started around here, and I was just like, what's missing from my portfolio right now? And would it be large or small scale? I wanted this to be smaller scale because it would mean I could get it out quickly, and it could maybe be what's the word? It could be, good quality. It wouldn't be something that felt like it was rushed. If I manage things right. Key phrase here, like if I manage things right. And I was just thinking, like, I don't have any sci-fi things on my art station, and my portfolio could use another prop page. So these are just, and cinematics. I like a lot of the cinematic shots we did in FCD. I didn't even upload because I felt like they weren't really they didn't really reach I mean, my expectations for them were a lot higher. Like I said in my last video, like it was just the comparison is the thief of joy, or whatever that quote is. But like, seriously, I'd look at some of my friends their cinematic shots, and I'd just be like, man. Like, because there were a lot of times in school where you'd see everyone else, like, sometimes things just clicked for a lot more people, like a lot quicker than it would for me. So like it took me, I think I only really realized what my quote style was. I only kind of fell into my style in term 3. The other terms, I was just basically trying to figure out like a workflow. You could argue that it was probably towards the end of term 2, but Yeah, well, that's enough of that. But yeah, basically, like I just didn't like the quality of the cinematic shots at all. So there's that. I did do one cinematic shot that was like I used line art instead of painting, like a paint over, and I'll show you guys that one right now. So yeah, it was this one right here. And like I say, it's okay. Like when I look at this, I'm not like blown away. I don't feel like I did anything particularly new. I think that's what I'm starting to realize with my work is like it's not necessarily for me like if it looks good, it's like did I try anything new that I didn't try before? Because like I know what I'm capable of in a lot of ways. So like if I don't try anything like for example, okay, I'll give another quick example so I don't go off track too much here. But with let's see. Yeah, so like with this prop page here, I tried a lot of things that were a little different from how I would normally treat and render things. And then on top of that, like it was a pretty complex prop. So me learning how to balance those colors more and not rush through that process was the thing that I did that was different this time. That was what ultimately made me appreciate this page a lot more than any other page I have in the project. Even though like to some you know the quality might not be that different. For me, I know I tried new things and that's kind of what makes it like that's a big factor that goes into whether or not I think a piece is good for me. Sometimes like a lot of people like some people they'll look at something and then like they'll be like, oh, this is great, but like if like I said, if I didn't go out the comfort zone in that piece and it was just a safe piece, like I'm not gonna really value it that much as if like it was something I didn't know I was capable of doing. Like the whole sci-fi thing in general is just brand new for me in terms of props. A lot of people like also point out that like before FCD I was doing a lot of sci-fi like robot stuff. Like I guess I can pull that up too real quick because that was this is pretty relevant I guess. But in the beginning, like for my Instagram or whatever, I was doing a lot of these kinds of sketches and drawings, which I think is like it's completely fine. It's just I mean I still have a passion for these things. It's just like now it's like if I were to return to these, like I would want to really brush up my anatomy because I look at some of these and I'm like, man, I could see the idea, like the early stages of an idea being there, but it's just like I don't think I had the fundamentals, like as far as like perspective and like anatomy understanding to be able to like add on to these. You know, there's a lot of things that, of course, any artist can imagine more details on some of their pieces, but like there's just some things that I just wasn't really able to fully explore. That's why most of these were like, you know, shoulder up drawings because like it's like I when it comes to drawing the body, I just don't know what the hell I'm doing. Even to this point, like sure it'd be interesting to go back and redraw some of these with like my new style or whatever, but like ultimately the fund like the foundation, the basics of like anatomy and perspective, these things haven't gotten better. Maybe design itself has gotten better and workflow has gotten better. Like hypothetically I could build some of that like in 3D, like the helmet and stuff like that, and use my workflow that I use for everything else on it. But at the end of the day, it's like there's a lot of more that I would want to explore out of that, or like pull out of that before I came back to doing stuff like that. So yeah, my main thing was like what's missing from my portfolio, what genre have I not tried yet, and what will it be inspired by, which was Fallout 4. Hence why like and mind you, like these are things that I completely forgot. So like you won't look at, you know, the work and be like, oh, it looks like Fallout 4, like or something that could be in the same universe. Like no, because I completely like that fell out of the window, like completely. The saturation is completely different. The use of color is a lot, like things are just more vibrant and almost cartoony looking. Not too cartoony, but it's definitely leaning more in that direction. Whereas like Fallout seems to be more grounded and what's it, not grounded, but like it's not like crazy like what's the word? It's gritty. It's grittier. You know, my piece doesn't look gritty at all. I don't think. And some of you dickheads are thinking about the dance. I hate you. I'm sorry. I had to. Okay. Yeah. See, like when I look at this, I'm not thinking like Fallout. Like this is not Fallout. I don't think. Maybe some of the terminals could like trigger that kind of thought in some places, but I don't think this is Fallout, man. So, also another thing, Time Splitters. So like Time Splitters is an old game. It's a very old game. But this is a game I grew up with, man. Like I really hope that they make another one of these games. It was like it was the most man, I haven't seen a game like this since it came out. Like honestly, the closest thing. So Time Splitters was like this game. I'll just give you a quick rundown. Sorry for some of these thumbnails, but hey, that was a different time back then, I tell you. But yeah, like Time Splitters was a game about like some guy going back in time, and he would go through these different time periods, trying to stop different things from happening that would ultimately occur, like end up with fuck. All right. Basically time travel, save the world type shit, because you got to get the time crystals from every time period, because the aliens are going back in time to try to get the time period, the time crystals before like humanity finds out what they actually are, kind of. You know what I mean? So like you play as this guy, this bald guy with the goggles on, and you go back in time, but when you go back in time, you like take the form of someone who existed in that time. So like Cortez, this guy, he would go back in time and then like take the form of some sniper chick that was in Siberia. You know, like at the exact time, like some chick that was maybe like not even related, or maybe she was related, who knows. But like the first mission is like called Siberia, it's called Siberia, and you take the form of like this chick who is like a sniper out there, and you're going through this military field, and they have a time crystal. It's really cool. I don't know how to explain it more, but like when that was just one of my all-time favorite games, like growing up. And the cool thing was that like in each time period, so like when you would go say into the 1980s, the whole group of weapons that you have access to changes like completely. Like you go from the weapons of, you know, the 1760s to the weapons of like the whole arsenal just changes. Every mission, like everything changes according to that mission. So like your double barrel shotgun turns into like a what's the shotgun called with the shells on the side, and it looks like it has the holes on the thing on the top of it, dude. Maybe I can draw it real quick and you guys know what I'm talking about. Hold on. I'll just getting like all right, the shotgun looks something like this. It's got like this. I'm drawing this with no reference. It has like these holes on the top, like I don't think it has like a I don't think it has a stock. I don't remember there being a stock, but it's something like this. You know what I mean? And like yeah, I swear to God, this is what it looks like. Okay, that's like the main form of it. Yeah, so like your double barrel shotgun ends up being like that kind of gun, you know, and like it's really cool. So I thought like maybe some of the influence could come from that. I listened to a lot of the music from Time Splitters while I was doing this, actually. Not that it really has like a crazy effect, but I was like, what's the story? Who would be the person living in this bunker? Is it like some kind of inventor? Is it some kind of shipping department with a bunch of like parts that they're shipping around somewhere? Is it a scene? Are they like loading supplies? Is it infiltration? Is someone being a spy and they're like infiltrating this spot? You know, is there anything that I could add to support that narrative? A security room, a utility room, no weapons, a tool room instead of a weapon room. So like some kind of maintenance, some like kind of like maintenance room times 10. You know, like you go into those little maintenance closets. What if that was like a giant room with a bunch of like, instead of weapon racks and stuff, you see a bunch of tools, I don't know. And those tools would be like the only tools that could work on the drones or something. What would it be? Is it post-apocalyptic? Is it near future? Is it far future? Like I said, I don't have a lot of reference for near future stuff at the time. So like I didn't want things to also look like so high tech that they weren't recognizable. This was something that like I was really worried about it in the beginning. And here, let me put this up here. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I didn't want things to look so high tech that they weren't recognizable. So I tried to, like I said before, like I tried to keep reference pretty grounded. I stayed away from anything that was super sci-fi looking. And when we were in FZD, like another thing that we had, like our teacher Kingston, he would just say, "Don't say sci-fi, say like high tech." You know what I mean? Like because that just it's kind of subconsciously reminds you that like you're not making shit up completely. When you go into like sci-fi, like the things that are made up are almost, when you look at them, you don't know what's going on. If you look at a vending machine, it's like you see snacks in there. Your mind reads it as a place where you can get snacks. When you see a trash can, uh, usually people don't recognize. I mean, a trash can doesn't really have any recognizable features, if I'm being honest, but like, you get what I mean. Like a little lid that opens on the top that looks like it can be pushed in. Usually a trash can. Like let's be honest here. Uh, what's another example? Um, let's see. Let's see if we can find one here. Oh, okay. Let's just take these storage drawers, like these drawers that you would pull out to put things in. It could be pens, it could be notes, it can be um, who knows, like batteries, tools, whatever. I just wanted to keep these kinds of basic references in there, so like I remind myself I don't need to exactly reinvent the wheel, which you guys will see. Like I almost attempted to do because artists, we aren't the most, when it comes to projects or private or like personal projects, it gets really hard to be disciplined because it's like you want to make the coolest thing ever and like you have all the time in the world, and then next thing you know, the project ends up being like abandoned or whatever else happens. And this, like I said before, this project came damn close to that too. Like I eventually things just got so out of hand that like I was like, man, I want to design this and I want to design this. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm only designing like three major props, and then a bunch of things came along that kind of made me have to simplify those things a lot because I needed to get the project out. And of course, I can't be in the same phase for so long. Like I need to push this out, or else it's gonna stop me from being able to do other stuff. So all right, back to what we were talking about. So I wanted to be kind of mid-techy. I didn't want it to be low technology, like scrappy or anything like that, but I wanted it to be something that was kind of recognizable. It's not like your name brand shit. Like high tech, I guess that would be like your name brand, like military grade, whatever, right? Mid-tech is more like your Walmart brands that are decent. You know what I mean? Like there's these shirts that I get from, these black shirts I get from Walmart that are like actually pretty decent quality. Like so yeah, like I'm not the type of guy to like, I'm not balling, all right? I'm not big balling yet. It wasn't going to be an outdoor or indoor scene, so that was also important. I didn't know if I wanted to be like, have like a partially outdoor kind of scene. I don't know. So if I went with the inventor thing, which I kind of did, would it be like a garage workshop, a robotics mid-tech spot, security drone workshop, surveillance workshop? These are just the kind of things that came to my mind. And instantly, of course, I came to the conclusion like, well, if they're going to be any of these things, there's got to be drones in it because I like drones. I actually did like a quick sketch of a drone just to like have a visual, like thing, like just having fun while I was doing things, right? And that's I could have probably expanded on that. That's not a bad looking drone. I mean, it could have probably been a little cool, like, honestly. So drone parts, exactly. Like this was a hidden. This was what I would call like a hidden expense, right? Because I'm thinking like when you think parts, like a bunch of random parts, it doesn't always occur to you that like it doesn't always click that you're gonna have to design those parts. Like it's gonna be part of something bigger. So you need to find out what that thing is and then make smaller parts of it. That didn't register in my mind at first. So like that without me knowing added a lot of complexity to an already get like something that was already getting pretty complex. It was adding, I don't know if I stammered over that too much. It was adding a lot of complexity to something that was already getting pretty complex. Guys, I woke up like 45 minutes ago. Give me a break. uh, so yeah, of course, needs to be a little gritty. A main work table, higher tech. So like not high tech, just higher tech than the mid tech. Does that make sense? DIY style. So no automation. I didn't want there to look like there were any, drone arms that were working on themselves or like some kind of, floor cleaning robot on the ground. Like, I don't think someone would be able to. I don't think someone would have the luxury of designing or making something like that when they're relying on this one robot to go to the surface and get them things that they need to survive. I'm pretty sure if someone was in that kind of situation, like they wouldn't be worried about getting a drone that can flush their toilet for them. like who gives a like, yeah. Stuff put together by hand, so desks bolted together. So this would be like kind of scrappy, but not too scrappy. Maybe scrappy in the sense that it was done by someone who knew what they were doing. You have some people who can, like most of us, who aren't familiar with like say cars or like mechanic work and stuff like that, right? You look at tools and you probably have once maybe thought like, oh, maybe I could tape those things together. Well, maybe someone who's more experienced would probably like, cut one of the tools in half and then weld them together. Who knows? Stuff like that. That probably if one of you guys are a mechanic, that probably made no sense, but hey. So I was thinking, okay, well, what kind of different drones would there be? So there'd be, for example, like a drone for retrieving parts, orders, quality of life stuff, drones for operations in hostile environments. This is something I brought up before. Should feel like prototypes. So none of the drones should feel like they work 100%. They should look a little unreliable, if that makes any sense. Again, cool idea, but my God, like sitting there and designing all these things is a completely different thing. Like, I realized this, like, okay, a lot of us know what have heard the term like V8 and V8 engine. Like, but like I looked at this video of these guys in like Pakistan, like building this thing, and it's like the parts that are on this fucking thing is crazy. Like, or no, I think it was for like a truck or something, like a dude, it was something crazy, but like it was kind of like this sped up video of these guys in Pakistan, like just taking this big ass engine apart and like pitting it together, and there's kids there and the kids are helping, and like at the end of the video the kids are like so excited because like they helped create, like essentially rebuild this fucking engine, and like they hear it come on. This kid probably didn't like had no idea what the thing would sound like even. But when you look at these engines, it's like it's so complex that like you almost have to I mean, there's surface level parts that you could probably break down and be like, okay, well, this is probably its own part, that's probably its own part. But once you start taking those things off, the parts aren't so obvious what they would look like on the inside, if that makes any sense. So, like, for example, on this little engine here, of course, we see all these circle gears and clutches. I don't know what these things are. I'm going to be honest with you, but they're a different, like these are a different material, which hints at them being a different part. And this is me like being completely I don't know what the hell this thing is, but when you look at that, it's like, okay, these are obviously separate parts from the black parts are definitely separate from the gray, the light gray, the black, parts are definitely separate from the red metal, right? But once you start taking those things off, it's like, okay, well, what would things look like on the inside? Now, of course, I could be going way too far in depth as far as like what would be needed to make this work or like visually understandable. But of course, like hindsight is everything, right? Like in the time, I thought I was like about to make some crazy shit because obviously, like it's so much easier to come up with the ideas than to execute them. So yeah, I was thinking about what kinds of different drones could there be. A generator drone, maybe a drone that you go out there and it serves as some kind of like mini power station. So like if you can get your second drone to at least where this drone is, you don't have to go all the way back to recharge. Maybe you can recharge a little bit at that spot instead. Maybe they would be have different tiers of prototypes. A quote medical drone. Maybe this could be like holding a bunch of medical supplies to maybe help a survivor out there or whatever. Or maybe it could be medical in the sense that it repairs other drones. Surveillance, recording the area, making charts and graphs and maps so you know how to navigate, get to places quicker, drain less battery getting there, blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure you guys get it at this point. So like a light drone, maybe this is a drone that you would use at night. It would be the default, or else like your camera won't be able to pick up anything. Opens up the potential for like night vision cameras that you can maybe collect or build for the drones, so you don't have to give away the drone's location or position at nighttime. Really useful against hostile enemies, like or hostile like mobs or whatever. It's just like these things kind of start making themselves like I swear Fang said this before, like and of course I'm gonna mention him a lot because like that's where most of our like learnings came from, honestly, in school. But like once you start taking note of things that already exist, the kind of the idea kind of builds itself, and then it's up to you to make like different versions of that aren't necessarily like one to one when it comes to real life things. So I just want to make sure I'm still recording here too. Okay, 27 minutes, man. This was going to be like a 10-15 minute video. So like, all right, I'll just take which one of these? I'll take recycling, right? So like recycling, we'll just go with technology or machines. What does that look like? Recycling is a scam, man. That's what my roommate says all the time. He's like, recycling's not real, dude. Okay, so yeah, you can just kind of like look at like conveyor belts seem to be a big thing that plays into that. Shredders, crushers, storage, pulse dust removal machines. So like you see what I mean? Like these are things that just kind of make themselves like what is this? A shredder machine, plastic crusher, screw feeder. So then from here you can just start looking up like what the functions of each of these machines are, and you kind of just choose what you want to make your own version of based on what you see. A friction washer, who knows what that does? A low speed friction washing machine, so a hot washer, high speed friction washing machine. See, so like there's so many different parts of the process that you don't even really like. Who would have thought of these things? It's like the same thing. Like what else? Because there's usually diagrams that'll break these things down, and then that can just feed into your idea. So like this essentially just halves the work that you have to do, like mentally, at least at this stage. Because once you start making the machine yourself, obviously things are going to get a little bit more intense as far as how much effort you have to put into designing and all that kind of stuff. Color. So let's see, dismantling. So here's a little process. Waste, dismantling, shredding, pulse, grinding, airflow separator. Yeah, it's just interesting stuff, you know. So like that, you can think like, okay, well, what if my machine had like a mini version of that little conveyor belt? How would that be visually like shown on a drone? Like, who knows? You could even go as far like if you look at like this might be a little cheesy, but like you could even look at like some Disney movies or something like some movies that have those same kinds of elements, like Wall-E, right? Like that just came to my mind. Like this little scrap bot that like squeezes the like that's a form of recycling, believe it or not. Like, well, I don't think that's recycling actually, but you guys get what I mean. It's kind of like a same approach. Like you can just see there's a lot of things out there you can take for inspiration. It doesn't even have to just come from like oops, I just started a video on accident. I just got done watching some House of the Dragon, and like now I want to watch the breakdowns for the episodes, because like I watch them while I'm halfway like drawing. I won't spoil anything, by the way, but yeah, I'll watch a show like halfway through the damn or when I'm drawing and stuff, and that's kind of how I keep it low. Here, like actually, let me see. I'm gonna close these real quick so I don't end up accidentally fucking playing a video and just not know it. It's so funny. That reminds me, like, I was playing D&D, or kind of like a smaller, a different version of D&D, I guess, like something called Shadow Dark, right? We playing with the boys on Sunday. So we were playing, and like, you know how you usually have like a music bot? I swear to God, this music bot would like randomly start playing like tunes for kids. Like, we'd be in the middle of like a battle scene or something, and like someone's about to get their shit rocked, and like, or like we're walking through like a dungeon, and like out of nowhere it's like just imagine like Caillou playing out of nowhere. It's like, yo, what the fuck? I'm like, my immersion. It happened like a couple of times. It was just funny as shit. Oh man, that was so good. You just can't make that stuff up, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so good. Okay, so yeah, different kinds of drones. So originally, like, I was thinking, like, where would it be? A garage, a basement, warehouse, bedroom, bunker, off-grid, kitchen, living room, office, hidden room, or a company, like, office building or something. Who knows? I was thinking a garage at first. I was like, man, but like a garage feels kind of generic. I think I just went with a bunker instead. I don't know why I said I'll try to make garage work. Hell no. I went for bunker, 100%. So I was thinking learning goals. Like I said earlier, it's not really a successful personal project for me unless I make something that looks good, but I also learn something from it. Because like, if you're going to be spending so much time doing something, you want something to come out of it. You don't want to stick to like, say for example with Blender, right? Oh, I'll actually bring up this in Blender too. Here, one second. Okay. So, for example, in Blender, right? I'll bring up the scene here so you can see like what it looks like. It's gonna take a while to load because I think this is a pretty big file. Not gonna lie, but when it comes to Blender, there's so many things in here that are so like different. As far as like this is like my little scene here. You see that? So beautiful, so organized. As Pac would say, very powerful. I think that's what Pac used to say. But yeah, like, what was I about to say, dude? Yeah, like all these little buttons. Like I just try to explore a different function or like a different setting on here every now and then to like maybe add another little tool, or like I wouldn't even say it's necessarily a new tool. I think of it in the way of like, you know, those screwdrivers that you can take the top off to like be able to screw a different screw. It's kind of like a different top for that. You know what I mean? It gives you more versatility. Makes you more versatile. But this is the scene in 3D actually. I was gonna talk about this in another video, but I always like how it looks in like grayscale. You know what I mean? I this is part of the reason why I hate adding texture, because like I feel like once you start adding texture, it looks a little flat in a lot of ways. But yeah, like I can just look at this forever. You can see like this was another thing too. Let me see. Okay, that's the wrong camera. So you can see here, if you ever have like a scene like this and you have a bunch of squares and shit, like all the lights, if you press this button right here, or no, these little two circles right here, it'll make that stuff go away. So that you can look at the scene without all of the cutters and light sources and shit like that showing. Can't even see the camera right now. So yeah, like I had to. This is something I'll mention later, but like I had to keep the background simplified so that like whenever this would read this little main thing right here, this little machine drone that I made. So when this thing would read on the camera, on the shot, like there's nothing in the back that was so complex that it would take away from that. And you'll notice that like even things like this little power station I had started making. Like I didn't want this to be too complex, but like early on I had some pretty cool ideas, man. Like I was cooking, but I had to make it more simple so that this thing could be pushed forward because I mean I didn't want the eye to be confused as far as like what it's looking for and looking at. And if you're wondering, like this is actually a version of a security drone, so like the surveillance. Obviously, this thing is not aerodynamic. Like this is not something that would probably fly realistically, but I thought the shapes looked okay. Like it looked pretty cool to me, so I just said, "Fuck it, we ball, man." I just went for it. Yeah, and you can see like some of the other little thingies I put back here. I still don't know what this was supposed to be, but yeah. Yep. Okay. So yeah, main thing is like I'd always try to play with some different tool to make something like that would be different. That just almost guarantees that something will be different. And I needed like more rendering experience, not painting experience. I was gonna paint it at first, but I was like, nah, man, nah, because I'd hate to like I have to do it small scale. I'd hate to get like such a detailed environment like this and then like end up painting over it and it looks like shit. Then I feel bad. Like I'd rather start with something low risk. That way it's like more. It's not so personal when it goes wrong, if that makes any sense. So I was already thinking about like areas that would be in there, which I'll expand on later. But just for a start, communications with radios and whatnot, monitors, generic stuff, crafting parts, so 3D printer style. This is something that I was actually really excited to explore. But that's something else that had to take a back seat actually. Retrieval, so like a material chute, some kind of trash chute, maybe. Who knows? As far as the 3D printing thing though, I don't know if you guys have played the game Prey, but there's this machine that's really cool in it. And I'll try to pull it up real quick here. Let's see. Actually, I'll just go incognito, that way I don't. Okay. So Prey crafting machine. Fuck, they're all guides. Well, okay. Well, this machine, I'm gonna mute it, but this machine I thought looked really cool. Of course, I get a Mickey D's fucking. Okay, fuck this, dude. All right, here. Crafting machine. So, this is what it looks like, right? And while the coolest thing that they did with this was like, it's not a crafting menu. It's that's the best thing Prey did, if I'm being honest. I don't know what company made this game, but I hope to God they make more, because if more games had this kind of interface, that'd be so much more fun dude, it was so like immersive, honestly. Like playing this game was so immersive. So like you would basically walk over to this little screen right here and you press it, and it doesn't like make some crazy like it doesn't give you the typical menu. It's like it's so smooth, dude. Like you press the buttons with your mouse, or like you like where you look and click, and then like the thing will start fabricating right there, and it'll just fall down this thing like as an in-game item. Like it's something you can pick up, and you can see like when you recycle things, like you can see the parts come out the same way into this little chute. It's so cool. So yeah, I was thinking something like that. Crafting drones, so like a prop table with a bunch of parts, a lift system, which I didn't end up doing. I just kind of kept it simple with some chains that held up the drone. I didn't, whatever. Like I said, time was going short. And a generator spot for power to power the bunker. So, oh man, that was a lot. Okay. So those were my original ideas there. I gotta speed this stuff up because we're already almost approaching an hour. And I swear to God, I thought this was gonna be like a 20-minute video. So why? Like maybe it's a robotics hobbyist using their skills to support rebels against a recently corrupted military force. That was the idea. So uses drones to retrieve supplies, intel, and equipment to survive a harsh winter. So I was thinking like maybe some combination of the Long Dark. Like okay, imagine the Long Dark, but like urban. It's more urban, a little bit more sci-fi. Um, Not so much combat related, but like the environment is as much of an enemy as a guy with a gun would be. So like you just have it's like player versus environment, PVE, pretty much. I think the Lone Dark has a really good job. I really like that game's art style, but every time I play that game, I swear to God, I start getting depressed. Like it's like everything's. I mean, some people play that game and like, oh, it's so peaceful and like the music is so good. I play that game and I'm like, dude, like the feeling of maybe it's better in the winter, but the feeling of like isolation and like you're survive. It's like for what? For what? What am I doing this for? Like, I don't know. I start losing my shit in that game. I'm like, dude, I don't even know what I'm doing. It's kind of the same with Project Zomboid, honestly. Like, I really like the idea of that game too, but it's just like, it's like after a certain point, I don't know. It's like you're by yourself. Like if I could play it with a friend, it makes it so much less like, man, I don't know, dude. Like it's like, Project Zomboid is like, it's like after a certain amount of time, it's just like, fuck. I don't know. I don't play that game unless I'm like in a Discord with some friends and like everyone else is playing their own game, and I might stream so people can watch me get my ass beat from stupid stuff. But yeah. Okay, so environmental hazards. What would they include? So I was thinking like wildlife, weather, military units, rebellion, factions, different ideologies, whatever, resource management. So like at this point I can safely say I was overthinking the shit out of this. I mean, maybe I wasn't, but the way that I used my time kind of made it so. It didn't make it very. It didn't make it any easier on this project getting done. Let's just say that. I don't know. Includes drones upgrading for resistances to hazards. So maybe if you favor one way of getting resources or intel more than another, you can have your drone reflect that by putting more resources and time into coming up with cool solutions and prototypey drone stuff. Who knows? Like player manages reputations based with different problems or how different problems are handled. Maybe like the factions take a note of different ways that you approach situations, like if you're violent versus non-violent versus green versus industrial. Who knows? Like if I'm sure if someone saw a drone that had like a solar panel on the top of it with these clean looking fans versus like a drone with like some heavy dark smoke coming out with like red LEDs all over it. What else? How? So scavenger lifestyle, maybe there's things that they have to do in person that are more risky that the drones can't. I don't know. See, that's another sign that I was getting. I don't know. Upgrades and mods, gathering scraps, defending home areas, trading, blueprints, maybe a roguelike feature where drones could be lost, possibly recovered, and there'd be a lot of factors like battery life and insufficient upgrades that could lead to you losing a drone. This was, like I said, back at this time I was thinking about painting it, so I took a lot of reference for that. Well, a few references for kind of more painted style, and I had their names here. So if you want to look up the artist that did this work for Pathfinder, his name's, you know what? I'm not about to fuck that up in 4K. You got me messed up. That's his name right there in that little green square. This one is from Wayfinder, and this is that guy's name. Like I said, not about to mess that up. Yeah, not gonna mess that up. You can go fuck. This is another Wayfinder 3D environment. Looks really cool. Sadly, it's a little pixelated though because I shrunk it down. That's the person's name. And this is another artwork that I thought was pretty interesting. Also painted. And that's that person's name. Definitely not saying that name. Alright, so that was pretty much the general planning. Now, you would think that it would stop there. But then I was like, okay, well, 3D printing machines. So like I was gonna have this 3D printer kind of deal where the machine would basically take blueprints, rearrange them to be able to be usable for the machine. So I called it the BAM machine, the blueprint arrangement machine. BAM machine, BAM. So yeah, this was a little workflow thing I did. I was like, inspiration, reference, sketching, 3D, and then boom, back to Photoshop. Bada bing, bada boom. I thought that shit was gonna be so easy. Idiot. Okay. So what? Crafting parts and materials. So this was basically the planning for this machine that you see right here, like kind of in the background. This ended up just being something completely different. I just basically turned it into a shelf, honestly, like, or like a giant toolbox, because I was just like, man, I don't have the time to plan this out. Like at this point, I already designed the drone and this little thing over here and this thing right here. Like I was just, man, at that point I had to start like cutting costs being time to get this thing out properly, which again shows how complex game development is. Like guys, like when people make these simple mistakes, it costs hundreds of dollars in money, thousands of dollars in money even. So like, of course I can see why games come out half-baked. Like just from this alone. But it's like, why release the game and hype it up? Like, I don't know. At that point, it's kind of like a loss. Like, this guy who there's this guy who has a channel. I think I mentioned him before. If you want to find the channel, it's actually, you know what? I'll find him right now. Don't play my video. Saved it. Okay, his name is Timothy Kane. This guy, he has a really good video, and I've watched a lot of his videos, dude. But he has a lot of video. He worked on Fallout, or I think he was the creator of the first 2 Fallouts, or art director or something like that. But this guy, really cool guy. He made a few videos talking about like the problems that you run into during game dev, and the problems that he actually ran into on Fallout. So if you're interested in stuff like this, like he has a lot of videos like that, and it's just so insightful. Like if people knew more things like this, I think that we could find, like, if people knew what kind of went on behind the doors of these games, like, I think people would have a lot more they would have a lot better English. They would have a lot of they would be able to approach the situation a lot better with an idea that would help a lot more than they think, like, you know, firing some random guy would do. Like, what am I trying to say, man? Like, people would have a much more usable actual, like, idea or something. Like, dude, why can I not form this I gotta breathe, dude. It's too early to be stressing like this. It's too early. Okay. I can do this. If people were more informed about how game dev works and the problems people run into with game dev, they'd be able to propose better ideas and solutions that were actually like valid. I think it's a lot more complex than saying, "Oh, these developers don't know what they're doing." Of course, some don't. Halo is in a very shit spot. I don't know who. I don't know who like is working at that place. That's like, oh yeah, we can make Spartan points, and you gotta buy them. Like what happened to the old Reach, man? Like the Reach credit system. Fuck you. They should bring it back. I'm not playing it until they do. Uh, but when okay, so I'm getting sidetracked. I know. I'm sorry. Listen, I gotta get this shit off my chest real quick. If you look at some of the old Halo, if you look at Halo Reach has this trailer when it first came out. It was called forget fuck. You guys know the trailer with where Cat's running with the bomb and Noble Six drops it in the ship? You know what I'm talking about? That trailer was god tier, actually. Like that's how the show should have been. I don't know how do people get like whatever director they had for that trailer, they should have brought his ass back because I don't know who made that fucking TV show. They are wilding over there. Like seriously, if you look at that trailer, it's like I remembered the name. It's called Deliver Hope. That's what it's called. And the music, the fucking music. Oh my god, man! You guys gotta watch this video. Straight up, like I can't play it. I can't play it here because YouTube's gonna come to my house and beat my ass. I can't fight yet, okay? But I'm telling you, this is such a good trailer. Like straight up, this is how the game, the show should have been. It should have been more gritty. It should have been more like serious. Like, man, dude, I might watch this shit after. I might watch this video after this upload, honestly. But like, anyways, like I can see how small problems can end up being way bigger, and it can often lead to get back on track. It can often lead to things being cut out of the game that should have been there in the first place, and then it ends up coming in later, and people are like, "Oh, this should have been there 10 years ago." Like it's deeper than that. It's so much deeper. But man, some of these people, dude, like man, idiots. Like I said, I don't know. Maybe like these okay, I gotta stay on track, man. My fucking heart rate's starting to go up. I'm getting pissed off. Oh man, I just can't look at my Halo. Like I remember when Halo 5 first came out, the Guardians or whatever. I got the Legendary Edition with the controller, like the Xbox, like the Halo 5 themed Xbox or whatever. Oh my god, man. Then the campaign. Who do you play as? You play as some random bald dude. Useless. But yeah, it's completely. I lost my train of thought. Okay, but anyways, yeah, these are, man. Okay, I'm gonna come back later to do these because this is gonna take a lot more. This is gonna take a lot more time, but I'll be back in a few hours for you guys. For me, it's like, or a few seconds for you guys. For me, it's a few hours. I'm just gonna take a break real quick. That shit's got me heated. I'll be back, guys. Hold on. All right, guys. So I'm back. Enough of the theatrics, though. Yeah, I mean, listen. Questionable decisions were made, but hey, that's it for that. Okay. I'm reformed now. I'm a new man. I ate some tacos that I cooked the other day. Okay, where was I? So yeah, this one I won't go too much in depth for because it's kind of, a lot of it's, this is the problem that I was kind of running into with making the pages for my ArtStation post when I'm done with the project. A lot of the designs weren't really gone through with because towards the end of the project, I just kind of decided to focus on getting it out there rather than elaborating on all of the other machines that I had in the in the room. So yeah, like I said, these I tried to keep a straight face. If you guys heard a monkey at my door, that was my fucking roommate. Oh man. But yeah, you can imagine it's pretty much the same process that I had for the general planning, but just in terms of the machine. So, yeah, the BAM machine. So, like I said, this thing in 3D was originally supposed to be like the blueprint machine for printing, like the parts and whatnot, but that kind of took a backside as the project ended up going a lot further. It went on for a lot longer than I planned, so I just kind of had to let it go. Which sucks because when I get to the sketches, that's where I'm gonna like realize like how much more I could have done if I actually referred back to them, because there are a lot of ideas. They were based off a lot of planning, so like they would have made a lot more sense form wise. I would have just did a overall better job with a lot. So this was the comms machine. Like I didn't really go too much into this one, so this one is also pretty irrelevant, but it's pretty much the same thing. I used a lot of keywords for what to support whatever functions the machine was gonna. Did I whistle there? The machine was going to fill or complete. So as far as comms, I was thinking like surveillance, communications, monitoring, resources, and power status monitoring. That ended up kind of being this thing right here. Let me see. This thing. No, like looking back on this one, I could have done so much better, man. I don't think it looks terrible, but like, oh man, you guys will see when I get to the sketches. I don't know why. Like, I guess there was just so much going on when I was doing this, because this was also during the time that I was trying to find my car. Like, I was trying to find a car to buy that wouldn't be too bad. Going to different dealerships. I'm not too sure if this was when I was getting my driver's license, actually, because I got my driver's license before all of that. But it was during a very busy. There was so much on my mind, man. Like, there were a couple times where like, and while I was doing freelance work at the same time that I was working with the grocery store, like full time, man. Like there were some days I'd get to work and I was just trembling because of how much, not like visually, but like I could feel it. You know what I mean? Like it's just uncomfortable. I was just doing too many hours. I was doing 60 hours total, around that 60 hours a week, and then I was also trying to figure out the car thing and the apartment and all this other stuff. So would not recommend. Would not recommend at all. And this is some of the line work actually that I did for that. So it's pretty interesting. I don't know if I showed that in my first video. Sorry, I keep having to clear my throat. So yeah, I was thinking about like a lot of stuff here. Like I said, I would go and explain all this, but I don't feel like it's very relevant. I mean, if you guys in the future, if you guys want me to elaborate on these kinds of things, because I only went over the generic planning or general the general planning to kind of give a feel for kind of how I was approaching things at first. So there's that. So here's the three sketch pages that I'm working on right now. Not working on, but like getting the presentation better. So this is the first one, right? This was for the power station, which was basically, obviously, like where you're gonna manage the power. You see the status of all the power. Like it's like a generator with visuals. You know the status of the generator. You know the status of where the power is going. You know the incoming power generated versus the outgoing, stuff like that. And this is something I added pretty recently, but for each sketch I kind of added a few keywords that helped reinforce what I was thinking when I made the sketches. So with this one was going to be like more modular, but heavy and durable. This one's more assembled and modular. Strong, compact, heavy, resistant, maybe like EMP resistant or something. This was more like a workstation, and you can see that shape language coming, it like sneaking its way in here every now and then. When it came to like how I wanted this thing to look. I would always have these like slim parts that are like that kind of hint at where I ended up eventually. So that was pretty interesting to see looking back at these. But there's a lot of cool. Like I would have personally, I would have liked to explore 11, 9, 4, 2, 3, and 5. I would have liked to have explored all three. Actually, all of these, man. Like maybe with the exception of 8 and 7. 8 and 7 seem a little bit more. You guys hear these kids outside? 8 and 7 seem a little bit more like workstations rather than machines. But yeah, like this is a perfect example of how like the 2D sketches can help a lot. Noticing some perspective things going on here. But yeah, it's just really interesting seeing how things came along. These were the first two sketches that I did actually for each one. So the monitor being, let me pull this back up real quick. Here's a preview of the page that I'm working on right now for the presentation and stuff. But for this monitor, this was pretty much the first sketch here. And these were basically my main two references. So you can see how much this reference right here influenced this. It might not be the, the craziest looking sketch, but you can definitely see where I started pulling certain features out of it and like kind of mixing them together. Man, I like how this thing came out. With this one, I also did like an early sketch, like block-in sketch, and just I guess you could call it like a shape sketch. That's what I'll call it, shape sketch. Yeah, just to see like how the forms would be and all that, just to make the computer more interesting looking, which led to this, like low detail version that you could find in the what's it called, cinematic shot, and then this is just that like higher detail version of that. With this one, I kept the highlights out, which I kind of like. I kind of like how this looks without the highlights, because if you look with this one, I mean, it looks the same kind of, but the grainy feel isn't there as much because of the highlights just overtaking them so strong. Like, if that makes sense. I don't know if you guys can notice it, but here, let me. No, you can't flip it, can you? Well, yeah. Either way, I really like how this looks without the reflections on it, but I gotta find a way to make them more visual when I have these reflections on it, because the reflections just catch so much attention that you can't even see the film grade, almost. Or maybe it's just me, I don't know. But yeah, that was the first sketch for that. Here's another sneak peek at the other page that I have for this. So basically the same thing, no reflections on it. Yep, with some of my references that I kind of pulled from the most. And that's that very early exploration right there. So yeah, that's my first sketch page. I was just like, the second I found this file though, and I found these sketches, I was just like, oh my fucking god. I left so much on the table. I mean, I think this one came out overall. I think this one came out pretty good. But man, the second one is what I'm pissed off at. Like this one. I mean, okay. Let me elaborate real quick, because this is what I was talking about earlier, right? So for the bottom half, like under this line, this gray line that you see here, still working on the presentation of this one actually, but you can see behind behind this like drone thing, I didn't want this to be too complicated, because if you look at all of these ideas for like the layouts and whatnot, they're all pretty high detail. There's a lot of different shapes, and I didn't want that to muddy the silhouette of the machine itself. Now you could argue that I could have fogged it out, like back fogged it, or like made it less saturated or something. But overall, like I just didn't want to risk it. Like at that point, I'm designing so much. I got to take the most low risk approach possible, which was just simplifying this tenfold pretty much. Which sucks, because there's a lot of cool things I see in here that I would have liked to explore. I mean, seriously, if I could have went from if I could have went from this like from this little idea here, or like the ideas I had earlier, to something this detailed, I know for sure I could have pulled something crazy with those. And this is yeah, so that's basically all the planning that went into, well, sketch wise, that went into this background. Once I got to like four sketches, 4 or 5, I was just like, man, it's not like I have to stay focused, because you can stay in the sketch phase for so long trying to make some perfect design, and then you end up with nothing in the end. So that's just something I really wanted to watch out for. Same with this one. Like, this was going to be the assembly, the arrangement machine, the blueprint arrangement. And I had some cool idea where like there could be these hanging kind of containers of whatever material you would use to print the parts. They would come in through this side and come out that side, and then the thing would fall out kind of through a conveyor belt right here. And then I'm guessing like when it's coming out of this little spot, there's like fog and gas, and it's like making like kind of like a compression or pressure noise, like a and like you have the fog coming out, and this machine, this pristine part just comes through it, and it's like you got to let it cool down on the belt a little bit before you touch it. And this conveyor belt would have been like retractable, like it comes out with the part on it. But this little hatch right here, you open it. So I'm just thinking like in terms of animations, like, because that's another thing too. Now that a few people have actually taken some of my designs and made them into 3D, like I think these videos could also help like animators or maybe even 3D modelers, especially because knowing how, like, I don't want to have to make a video obviously explaining everything like that, but I'm guessing internally like these are probably things that you would communicate to another team member who's happens to be a 3D modeler, or an animator. Like you open that hatch, or maybe there's even a code lock on the hatch, right? So you enter this animation, you're punching in the codes, the little beep goes off, you pull this like heavy duty radioactive resistant fucking hatch or something up, you clip it into place, and then this belt comes out with the thing, and you can turn on the LEDs to make it like brighter when it's coming out or lower. Just a bunch of interaction stuff. I mean, ideas are cheap, right? But for like every one of those ideas, that's a lot of labor hours that would go into that. It's funny, I think of things in that way now that I've taken my car to like a shop and I've watched a lot of videos. Like the thing when it comes to concepts, and the reason I think that so many concepts come out that are like so high detailed and then they're essentially like watered down by the time they get to 3D, is because like to make certain things happen, it's just so much extra work. Like if I wanted like for an animator to just have the hatch open, on its own, instead of it being like some kind of thing the player would click, and no one would want to go through a long animation every time they interacted with a machine, of course. But like if it were like something like Satisfactory, like where you have to do A and B in order for C to happen, it could be very interactable that way. And eventually, of course, like this could be like a lower tier machine where like you have to do more of the things manually. You start understanding the game mechanics and like the benefits of automation and power, like that you don't have to constantly run back to every few. Like there's just so many things to consider here. It's so fun. It's so fun. Same with this one. This one was a little bit of a different approach though. I was thinking like, I think this one was like more of a floating monitor that rotated. So like you would have the object come from behind the monitor, and the monitor maybe displays that information of the thing, like what it's used for, what materials it took to make it, all that fun stuff. You have the buttons on the side that control the belt, and then like when the part's coming, the monitor kind of like raises up, or maybe it like it slides up or something like that, or like maybe it turns up. Who knows? It's just so cool, man. It was fun thinking about these things. It sucks because like you can see I have too complex here, because where I had it was right next to so if you look in Blender, right, this was where it was, and I didn't want something that big and complex to be right there, and then also like the time budget was going out, so I had to cut this. planning, guys. And you can see here too, like it went from this really complex machine to me trying to figure out like what the side view would look like. Even this is actually pretty thick. That's a pretty thick boy though. Maybe that's not even the same machine. But you can see how it went from this big machine to like something more complex that kind of mirrors that same shape a lot, but it's still kind of different. And then I was even thinking of something even more compact, like that would take up less space. Yeah, and I did a little sketch trying to figure out like how things would connect and whatnot. Just something fun, I guess. But yeah, I didn't want it to be too detail dense because, like I said, the further you get away from wherever this camera is, I think this is something people run into in Blender too, is like whenever you have this camera here, right? Like say wherever your camera is, and your room is this big. I'm gonna do this from the top view because this is just easier. Okay. All right, here, I'll sketch over this real quick. I think this is obvious, but like for some people it might not be. Okay. So say you have your room, right? Your camera is right here. Right? It's going this way into the room, and this is your room. Now, the stuff that's closer can usually have more detail density than the stuff that's back here. The stuff that's back here you don't want to have with a bunch of like say for example, if you had a bunch of buttons, like small buttons, once they get to a certain distance, at least in my experience right now, I don't really have a solution to this problem yet, but you usually have to use bigger shapes to get the idea across. And I didn't want there to be a bunch of small buttons that are like okay, right here, this is a lot closer than this, right? So I can get away with some buttons and whatnot, but the space that button takes as it goes further into the distance, right, is smaller and smaller. Like look at it, just keeps getting smaller. So now it's like a quarter. Of course it's going to be like a quarter of the space. You see, look at that. It didn't look like it changed that much. But this is the same shape. It's not the same. Is it the same height? Let me see. You see that? So the space that you have to get that idea across is going to be so much smaller. Like on here at this range, I can probably put some details on whatever this would be, like a canister, right? You can probably get some labels on there, maybe some outlets, plugs or something that would go into it. But at that distance, that's just not possible. It's just not possible. Like, and mind you, this isn't even all the way where this thing is, so it's even smaller than that. I know this might be obvious, but this is just for the people who know. So like, I had to be really careful as far as like the detail that would go into being at that distance. It was just so hard to be able to communicate all of this with something that's that far in the background. A lot of the stuff would have just been so dense that you really couldn't. So I just filled it in with like random stuff and just called it, because it was just, that was a problem that I didn't see ahead of time that I noticed later. And that's actually why I made the updated, like this high detail version of stuff in general, because of course in the 3D shot, like things are decently detailed, but when you're also not seeing them head on, you don't get to see as much of the detail as you would want. So that was the whole inspiration for me doing that, because it at least shows that, like, even though the detail isn't there, I know, or I at least have a decent understanding of what it's supposed to be. I'm not just like, and of course, like I can't stress it enough. Like, I would have loved to be able to go back and redesign this and redesign that, to be able, or not redesign, but like do a high detail version of it, like a prop breakdown page, to be able to do that, so that it shows like Like these aren't just random forms. Like I know how they translate if they were up close. If someone was interacting with them, I know how to handle those details. Or it just shows that ability for the next step of or the next level of detail. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, yep. And then this kind of just ended up being not used. I just went with this shape and just kept simplifying it. And I think I even have, for those who haven't watched my last video, I'll just show you real quick. So this is how the evolution of the room kind of came along. So I had this stage and just kind of changed things as I went. Got feedback from friends. And you can see like right here, I just didn't really understand what was going on here. This could have probably worked because it's bigger shapes. Like these are not, this wouldn't have been a bad solution, but at the time I just didn't even know what. I think these were supposed to be material canisters for the printer, but I didn't know how to get the printer to read as a printer, you know. And here was like slightly more detailed, like it had the monitors around it and stuff, but at that time I was just looking at it and it just looks like some kind of like fucking Frankenstein bionicle or something. Like I don't know, it looked like a bunch of random parts put together rather than like one big machine. And that's why I kind of just, and here you can see I tried to make a little desk, or not desk, but like storage stuff, right? But like I said before, here I'll show you again. Like if I had a rectangle here, let me get one. Fuck. Okay. So let's just say this is our drawer, right? All right. And if I move, this is a pretty big drawer. Let's say okay. Let me actually do it over here so that it makes more sense. So these little drawers, sure, like up close you can see where the detail can be put in. But if you move it this much closer, fuck. I'll just move it this way. Look at how much more space. It's like the space that you can play with just changes completely the closer you get to the camera. Hold on, I'm recording a video, dickhead. I hate you. So yeah, you can just see the closer it gets to the video, fuck. The camera, goddammit. The closer it gets to the camera, it's just the more space you can play with, and you got to remember your lines are also going to take up space, your colors are going to take up space, and you don't want the colors to get muddied with the lines. The whole thing on its own is just another, man. I think you guys get the point, but yeah. So that was that. And then I, of course, had this thing, which kind of made me a little sad because I ended up going with a pretty basic shape for this machine instead of kind of using something that was a little bit more better. This one was just better put together, in my opinion. And I don't know why I didn't use it, or even this maybe. So that's how it all ended up coming to looking like this. But I would have definitely I like this a lot more. So yeah, I just had to. I don't know if that was a time. I think that just came down to me forgetting that I had all these sketches to go off of. So I just kind of rushed it out. Kind of, I feel like. So yeah, these were just the sketches that I had, and the other page that I mentioned in the other video that I didn't have. So it was probably for the best I didn't have them at the time, because that would have ended up being a 3-hour video. Who wants that? So anyways, yeah, that's it. I'll catch you guys later. Yeah.